This is Akashvani, Bengaluru.
Namaskara and welcome. I'm Angela, and today we are addressing a subject that is making headlines and capturing online debates and campus discussions Operation Sindoor. In the age of algorithms and adrenaline, the youth are often accused of being apathetic or distracted. But what happens when a nation is shaken, when lines are drawn and choices must be made, not just on paper but in our minds and hearts? Joining me in the studio are two journalism students from Bengaluru, Anugrah C. Wilson and Grace Kurung. Passionate, articulate, and informed, they represent the emerging conscience of a generation. Welcome again, Anugrah and Grace.
Thank you. Always grateful to be in spaces where conversations are nurtured, not silenced.
Thank you. Glad to be here as well and join in this conversation.
Now let's ground our conversation. Grace, for our listeners who may have only caught snippets, can you take us back to what Operation Sindoor was?
Certainly. Operation Sindoor was launched in response to a horrific terror attack in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir in May 2025. It claimed 26 lives, consisting mostly of tourists. In retaliation, India launched airstrikes targeting 9 identified terror camps, 5 in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and 4 across the LOC within Pakistan. India reported that over 100 militants were neutralized. The operation quickly became a flashpoint of pride, fear, grief, anger, and political rhetoric.
And then there is the name Sindoor. It wasn't just a military operation, it was wrapped in layers of symbolism. Sindoor, as we know, symbolizes sanctity, sacrifice, commitment. It became a metaphor for national protection, but also sparkled discussions about the intersection of culture and conflict.
What was your initial reaction when you heard about Operation Sindoor? What do you say, Anugrah?
I had been following the news on social media and news websites. It was not that unexpected for me to learn about the response attack. What did surprise me was how quickly things escalated.
What do you say, Grace?
Comparatively, I'd say I was in a bit of a blind spot. I had viewed several news posts and reports about the Pahalgam attack on Instagram and Twitter, but yeah, just like Anugrah said, things escalated quickly. The moment they released the news about starting mock drills to prepare for airstrikes, that's when it really sank in. Like suddenly, everything felt real too soon.
Let's dive into that symbolism. So, do names like Sindoor change how we receive and remember military actions?
Absolutely. Names matter. They are not neutral. Sindoor evokes deep emotions. It made the operation feel less like a tactical maneuver and more like a collective war. But that also raises questions. Are we framing war through emotional symbols to manufacture consent?
Yeah, I think it's a very clever tactic, both emotionally and politically. The government, I think, intended to make the operation more relatable. But when a symbol of marital continuity is used to justify violent confrontation, it stirs inner conflict. Some saw it as a unifying narrative, others as manipulative storytelling.
Now, let's talk about how this story exploded, not just in press conferences but also in our phones. What do you think about it, Grace?
I think the speed was astonishing. The attack happened, and within hours, memes flooded Instagram and Twitter. One said, Chutki bhar sindoor desh ke naam, repackaging a rather romantic film quote into a war slogan. People weren't just reading news, they were remixing it.
And misinformation was rampant. Aerial footage from Syria was falsely circulated as exclusive strikes in POK. WhatsApp groups became echo chambers. What troubled me most wasn't the inaccuracy. It was how ready we were to believe what fits our emotions.
Right, so do you feel social media helped or harmed public perception?
Both. It helped democratize discussions, but it also shortened attention spans and reduced complex realities into trending sounds and punchlines.
Yeah, I think there's also the performative layer. People posted peace doves or tricolor filters, not always out of conviction, but to avoid scrutiny. Youth were either seen as hyper nationalist or apathetic rebels.
Why do you think humor became such a dominant response? We saw that a lot, especially the youth.
I think humor is a defense because when you're unsure how to feel, just laugh. Memes are modern day shields. But here's the catch. If the only way we engage with tragedy is through humor, we risk normalizing the situation.
Yes.
And also, humor spreads faster than grief. A meme travels quicker than eulogy, and that's dangerous. Repeated exposure to satire blunts sensitivity. One day we are making jokes about strikes, the next we are unmoved by sufferings.
Do you think youth today feel connected to events like Operation Sindoor?
I'd say we feel connected emotionally but kind of disconnected practically. We are moved by the operation, but we don't always know what to do about it. For example, we repost a flag or type Jai Hind in the comments, but we're not reading policy papers or watching international debates.
Yes, and there's also a sense of helplessness. Like, what role do I even play here? I'm just a student, but I believe this is where civic literacy matters, understanding geopolitics, questioning government narratives, engaging in respectful dialogue. That's how we connect more deeply.
Did Operation Sindoor change how you view your own role as a citizen?
Yeah, I think it definitely has changed a little bit. I came to realize that being a citizen isn't just passive. I began checking news sources more thoroughly. Then I also questioned my emotional responses.
And it made me understand how privileged urban living can isolate us from ground realities. And how critical thinking isn't anti national, it's patriotic. If we don't ask hard questions, we fail democracy.
Ah, that's true. But then what about the role of student communities? Did you see activism? Any kind of petitions or forums, Grace?
Yes, actually. At a university, we had a peace vigil. Students lit candles and observed silence, not just for the Indian victims, but for all lives lost. It was controversial to some, but it showed courage and balance.
We also saw debates on campus. They weren't always peaceful. Some voices got louder than others, but the fact that we even held such events shows a hunger to engage.
So, did these events unify or divide students?
I think both. Discomfort is often seen as a sign of growth. You cannot build unity by avoiding hard conversations.
Do you think Operation Sindoor was politicized? What do you say, Grace?
Patriotism became a litmus test. If you question the operation, you were accused of disloyalty. That weaponization of dissent is very worrying.
Now, let's imagine our paths. What other responses do you think could have been pursued other than what you have seen happen?
I think some of the responses that could have been pursued are cultural diplomacy, education exchanges, global condemnation. Things like this. Soft power is slow, but its impact lasts longer. Violence gives instant satisfaction, but it also breeds generational trauma.
And what about you, Anugrah? Do you agree with her or have a different opinion here?
I think military operations like this was necessary because this is not the first time Pakistan has done this. Relying solely on non-military measures can be seen as a sign of weakness, encouraging further aggression from the opposition, and delaying immediate protection for affected population. So I think it was about time India finally retaliated.
Now, let's tackle something sensitive, okay? Nationalism. Do you think incidents like this stir blind nationalism, Grace?
I think it depends. Patriotism is love for your country, whereas nationalism can sometimes be about pride at the cost of empathy. In times like this, emotions are high. But it's important that we do not become intolerant. We must remember that pride and peace are not enemies.
Yes, being critical doesn't mean you are anti-national. I love my country. But I also believe in asking, could we have prevented this? What's the long-term goal? Because if we just keep striking back, the cycle will never end.
All right. These are some wise words over here that we are hearing now. Let's switch gears here. What role do you think media education plays in helping youth respond to situations like Operation Sindoor? Grace?
I think it plays a massive role. If we had more media literacy workshops in colleges, students would be better at decoding news, verifying sources, and understanding propaganda. Most people I know don't even read beyond headlines.
What do you think? Anubhav?
Exactly. Also, schools and colleges need to build a culture of dialogue where current affairs aren't just one teacher talking for 10 minutes, but an actual group discussion. That's when awareness turns into engagement.
Right. Now let's make this a little more interesting. We're going to bring in a short form of rapid fire. I would like to ask you guys a couple of questions. So, Grace and Anugreh, one word that describes your feeling during Operation Sindoor.
Restless?
Reflective.
One thing you wish young people would do more often during such national events.
I need to pause before responding.
Okay, Anugreh.
Ask deeper questions.
And one image or moment from this entire period that stuck with you. Grace?
I think I saw this photo of a Kashmiri child staring at the sky during mock drills. The expression on the child's face, it really stayed with me.
Anugreh?
For me, it was a short video of a mother lighting a lamp at the border, praying for her son in uniform.
Now, as youth citizens, what's your personal takeaway or message to other youth about the participation in such national endeavors?
Amidst the conflict, we witnessed so much misinformation and trolling circulating on social media. We saw a lot of digital harassment and cyberbullying under the guise of free speech. So I'd say that my biggest takeaway is that as young citizens, we should consider the risks and benefits of weighing in on sensitive social media topics before we hit post.
What's your takeaway, Anugreh?
I believe my key takeaway is don't just be emotional but informed. When actions like this occur, it's easy to become so hyper patriotic. However, we should also consider, are we merely striking back or working towards peace and security? National pride and critical thinking can coexist. We're entitled to be proud of our forces, but responsible to know the larger picture as well.
Just in one sentence, how would you define the true success of Operation Sindoor in the future, Anugreh?
Actually, success would be reaching a stage where we don't have to depend on such operations anymore. Because threats are addressed through good intelligence, diplomacy, and not merely airstrikes.
And Grace?
I believe that the actual success of Operation Sindoor will be when every individual residing along the border, both civilian and military people, can live without fear daily, not only during the days when the army destroys terror camps.
What a conversation. Anugreh and Grace, thank you for being more than guests. You've been mirrors, windows, and lamps to us. To our listeners, conflict may be loud, but reflection is louder in the long run. The youth are not a passive demographic. They are poets of pain, architects of hope, and soldiers of thought. They scroll, yes, but they also seek. And in that seeking lies transformation.
This program was brought to you by Akashvani, Bengaluru.